here's Mike Winters.
And good morning, 21 minutes after 8 o'clock on your Wednesday morning. Joining us in studio this morning, Mr. Brian Luck, RISD Superintendent. How are you doing this morning?
Doing well. Good morning. Thank you for having me today.
Boy, howdy. It's a crazy morning. We are not on the air technically, but we are still online at ksbptv.com, of course, through Facebook and our YouTube page. And we'll have this interview up on all of our social media a la carte after this as well, so you can feel free to share. So you're heading into the fire. 2022-2023 season kick-starting as of Thursday of last week.
Yes, sir.
It's all underway. I mean, everybody's going back, and
Yes.
so far so good?
You know what? Yes, very good. Knock on wood. We've had probably one of the best, being as this is my second year.
Sure.
And you know, most everything would be better from what we had last year to start off with. We've had a really good start. We've been out in all the buildings. We've heard from a lot of teachers, a lot of parents that, you know, this just felt right. That if there was ever such a thing of back to sort of normal, this one kind of hit it for us.
It did. You know, and the funny thing is, I've heard from a lot of parents. They said that it feels like we're starting early this year. But the funny thing is, Facebook made liars out of all of us, because I was looking at our memories, and the exact same day we sent our kids back to school last year, we were getting Facebook memory posts from the same thing from last year. So it was the exact same day.
The good old days, and they're not that old, of waiting until mid-August to start. We haven't done that in quite a while.
Right.
And I think, yes, we have just sort of shifted back, you know, a day or two here and there over the last 10, 15 years. And we're traditionally somewhere around the first week of August. That's when we've been starting. I know you've got other schools in the area that are going back tomorrow. I know, I think Artesia goes back tomorrow.
Right.
But I know here we've been going back in this week multiple times. So feel pretty confident with that. The state did ask for some extended days from us. They didn't mandate it, but they did ask, and we obliged, and it actually worked out into a calendar that had already been posted. It was a 3-year calendar that was adopted, and it was posted, and it's been online for a while now.
Now, this is the first. You said this is your second year officially as under the title of superintendent. So this is technically your first year where we're, as like you mentioned, as close to back to normal as we possibly could be. I mean, given the circumstances.
Well, we'd like to keep it that way too.
Sure.
When I came in, we were still dealing with pretty much heavy duty COVID stuff. Mr. Gottlieb had done a phenomenal job. The admin team there at the district, the teachers, everybody had done such a great job navigating just situations that we really didn't know anything about. We get to the beginning of last year, and we're talking about having kids in school with masks and contact tracing and doing smaller lunch sizes and kids eating in the classroom.
Oh, I'm a dad. I know.
And
I remember what it was like.
It has been very refreshing this year, just actually talking about school stuff. How do we get people back on track? And no, it is my first run at what a normal year kind of looks like, and it's been very nice. I will say that we're dealing with actual school issues is very nice. You know,
the funny thing, during like the height of the pandemic, where everybody was doing remote schooling, my daughter. So I have 2 kids. My daughter's the only one as of like during the pandemic was of school age, and for the most part, she was in school. Like, she actually went to school. She's on the spectrum. So she goes to Del Norte, and she's a part of a program. So she was one of the only students for a quick minute, like one of like 17 students at Del Norte that were allowed access to the school and allowed a school day. So it was all, I didn't experience the pandemic school era like most parents did. Like, because I still sent my kid off to school. The bus came out and picked her up, took her to school. So I didn't experience the pandemic era quite like the average parent did. That being said, it's still been just a monumental task. I can't imagine what it's like for the average school parent to have to shoulder on, remote learning and keeping Chromebooks not broken.
Right.
Like I have an angry kid, but keeping Chromebooks not broken throughout the entire pandemic. It was just so much to shoulder. It was so much to take on.
It was. Had we been in any type of a different community, I don't think we'd get even the results that we got.
Right.
Our community rallied around. There were a lot of other districts that didn't have the support that we did, and that is back due to our parents, and they bought in, they jumped on board. We had businesses that allowed people to stay home. You had flex schedules going out for employees. I mean, it was literally and Mike and I have talked about that a bunch.
Sure.
Just a total team community effort, and that was my big hope this year, was that we could all reap the reward of what the ebb and flow. And I've talked about that multiple times on the show of it's time to go back to school, and your parents don't have to worry about the kids being home over the summer, and everybody can kind of just you turn that dial and you shift into fall mode, and kids are in school, and you've got a couple holidays and some breaks that come in there, but it allows everybody to get back to their routine.
That's the most, I think that the back to school is the most back to normal feeling that we've had the ability to have. Like sending the kids off to school, parents getting back to day drinking like it should be. It's the way it's back sort of semi back to normal. Now I got to ask, what's so obviously the school board, coping with all this too. What's the temperature of the school board been? How have things been there?
Tell you, supportive, totally supportive across the board. They recognize the job that they have. I mean, and it is a huge, they volunteered for that, and it's a monumental task of doing things to help kids, and that's not easy. I mean, you're making friends nowhere,
right? You got to make the tough decisions,
and you've got some tough decisions that you have to make, and they've done a great job with that. They've been very supportive. They have allowed us to wander into some areas that I don't necessarily want to say mistakes, but areas that we quickly retrieved from. We tried some things over the course of last year to try to help out with some timing for our teachers. Sure. Gave me a little bit of flexibility, but then also we're glad whenever they saw that we changed to go back to some other things. So I feel really, really blessed to have the group that I've got. We did grab 2 new members at January, and they've dove right in and have been making impacts and getting involved and getting informed. So very, very blessed to have the group we've got.
And that's intimidating to be the new kid on the block, to jump into a group that already kind of has their bearings and find yours. It's a lot to deal with. So props to the new members of the school board. So let's talk about the school board meeting.
You bet.
Absolutely. How did things go?
We did good. We had it got a little lengthy. We had some pretty good discussion in a couple areas. Conducted some general business. We welcomed our new principals and assistant principals and had quite a good group up there. I mean, we have, and I'm remiss I didn't bring my group here with me today, but did get the opportunity to hire about 4 or 5 new principals.
Awesome.
About the same number of assistant principals, and got a chance to put a name and a face. My board had been hearing names or reading names in text messages about welcome aboard, and actually they got a chance to put a name to a face.
I was part of a board of directors for a quick minute, and one of the things during the pandemic era is we had our meetings via Zoom. Like, I was a part of this board for about 6 to 7 months before I actually met in person half of the members of the board. And I know it was probably the same for you guys. You guys were carrying on conducting meetings mostly via Zoom. Eventually, in-person meetings started back, I'm sure.
Yes.
But so it's a change of pace kind of thing. But yeah, finally get a chance to put a name to a face is definitely an awesome thing.
Absolutely, sure. And a lot with the new. Some of those had bumped up from assistant principals as well, and or moved from an assistant principal or teacher at this school to a different school. So getting an opportunity for a reset, and now I'm going to equate that person with this building. Just gave them an opportunity to do that, and
Sure.
and that was pretty nice. Then conducted just some business. Went through our, approved some of our bills. Did all of that kind of general stuff, and then went in and had some action items. Got our Roswell High School choir is going to go hopefully to Orlando, Florida.
Nice.
So anytime a group wants to go out of state, they have to have board approval. So
Sure.
even if that's just to Lubbock, or to El Paso. Anytime they cross the state line, we ask for board approval. And something like the trip that they're looking at right there is going to have a lot of moving parts, a lot of fundraising, and I know that they need to get that going. We did have the Charlie's Angels dance team came in as well. Had a little bit of confusion as to what they were going to do. Were they just general comments, or did they actually want an action item?
The multiple championship.
Excuse me.
Yeah,
yes.
the multi-time champion Charlie's Angels dance team. I feel like that needs to be stated.
I tell you what.
They're phenomenal. They are so good.
A side note to that. So at graduation last year, I was given the opportunity, like all the rest of the superintendents. I mean, I was at all of them, and I got to shake the kids' hands as they came across the stage, and it was incredible. You know, the number of young ladies that were coming across, and that they had, you know, multiple state championship rings on. And it was I mean, it never ceased to amaze me that when they would come across and I'd look down and I'm like, I don't think I'm going to fist bump you. I think I'll just shake your hand.
Yeah, you'd get carpal tunnel by the end of that.
I think you're going to hurt me if I try to fist bump you. But no, Miss Castro does such a great job with that group. Absolutely. And I have no doubt that we'll get that approved for them and get them on down the road so that they can do their fundraising for their trip. And I believe it's in Florida as well. But just some work on that. A couple of the things that sort of jumped out at people. When I came on board, there wasn't really a standardized evaluation tool for me. So I commend the board. They have taken the time. They've done their research. They've consulted with other districts, and they've got an actual tool. So it's a document, and what it is it's going to give me an opportunity to strive to meet their expectations. So it's not anything up in the air. It's not this goal that nobody knows that I'm reaching for, or only a couple of our, you know, myself or a couple of them. It's very standard. It's very genuine, and they approved that last night, so that we can continue with that.
I respect the fact that you put in place like almost a fail-safe for yourself. That there wasn't a system of checks and balances for the superintendent himself, him or herself, and that you established that now. I respect it, but at the same time, you sort of like gave yourself like, you know, like the plank to walk off of, so to speak.
And I don't look at it like that. I mean, it would be easy. It would be easy to do. I'd rather know the game that I'm going for. I think and that's one thing that this board has done a really good job with is clear-cut expectations. But given that it's written down, where I have the opportunity to say, okay, there's no question about this. And the neat thing about it is the goals really do align with the community. So, I mean, this isn't something that was generated by a firm in another place. It's local. So.
I chuckle because the phrase "the times they are a-changing," so to speak. When I was in school, and I'm speaking out of school here, but when I was in school, and this wasn't my superintendent, but my principal, I'm not going to say his name, but he was a known problem drinker in the community, like a known issue. Like, it's just nice to see that the school system itself is kind of like holding itself, you know, to task.
Yes, and again, I think that starts with the board. I mean, we had a couple presentations last night when we were talking about some of our data. We had some PSAT and some SAT scores, and you know, we presented the numbers, and they were what they were. And you know, we're going to be very transparent. And again, I think that comes back to our board leadership. The 5 individuals that are up there, they have nothing to hide. I mean, things may not be good. But we're not gonna try to hide from them because they don't look good. Right. Our goal is to try to fix those things. So, yes, the times are a little different, and I think you're. Now,
granted, I went to school 20 years ago. Like I graduated in 2002, so it was in a completely different era.
I saw a presentation one time, and I can't remember what the difference was, or what even then the presentation's probably 10 years ago, give or take now, and it was like the technology that has not been invented today is obsolete in a year or two. Yeah, and I think that has just shot even faster than that where we are now. I mean, we were talking about a long-range strategic plan. And the lady that was doing the plan said, "Oh, you know, when we were looking at different things, or renovating or remodeling or whatever, she says, okay, now keep in mind, the people that will inherit that building are this year's kindergartners. And that really resonated home. I was just like, oh my gosh, that's, 12 years from now, 11 years from now, depending on how you look at it. And how things will be different in 11 years. And so when you're having to plan and you're having to adjust for those things, that's tough.
It is.
That's tough. And it takes special people to think that far in advance.
And learning itself has changed. I mean, I come from an era where the going phrase was TV's going to rot your brain. My daughter literally learned how to read from seeing like YouTube, Facebook logos and associating the letters from the logos with things that people were saying. And she learned how to read from that. And she's now reading a grade level above her own grade. Like it blows my mind to think how learning has changed, how it's advanced to this, like we're utilizing technology in a way that excites me. I'm genuinely excited about it. It's we're using it to actually feed brains for a change.
One of our trainers that came has been to Roswell several times made a comment one time. She said, well, if you can YouTube it, why are you teaching it? And at first I was just like, well, I don't need YouTube to teach. And the more, and again, that's been 2 years ago that I heard her say that 2-3 years ago. But we are teaching such a different child than even 5 years ago. And with the evolution of technology, and you throw a wonky year and a half of going home and actually requesting that they utilize that. And it has made us rethink some things when we come back into the classroom of, how this is your perfect opportunity to do something different. Sure. You have the green light. There's no punishment for trying something different here. It's
not sitting a kid in front of a TV or a tablet. It's literally utilizing what they're saying and then incorporating it into your teaching. I think it gives teachers just a great leg up.
Well, and I've actually seen a couple classrooms that were basically like flipped in reverse, and we've had one of the teachers that I watched came in and put on a video of her teaching. It was her
Really?
teaching, and she was giving a lesson on her Promethean board, so it's a video, and she's actually walking around the room answering questions as the kids are taking notes off of her lesson.
Wow.
I had another lady that that's what you do at night. Your homework is to watch the lesson. And then when you get to class the next day, that is where you get the chance to ask the questions. So it's a flipped version. So as far as, cool. There should not be any excuse for not having your work turned in, and I don't know what the percentage is, but a large percentage of your zeros at the high schools and mid schools is kids not doing their homework. Sure. And if you eliminate that as an excuse, it does change the game a little bit when it comes to that. And it's tough because some of the parents, they're old school and they're just, well, what do you mean you don't have any homework? You haven't had homework in math or English, science. What's wrong with you? I always had homework whenever we did that. And it's a different philosophy.
It stressed us out. I mean, you remember, we had piles of it. We'd get done with school, we'd go home, and we had more school. It was just so stressful. So it's nice to know that we found a good, work-life balance, so to speak, for kids, and it's just nice to see.
You mentioned work. Society's changed too. We've got several of our kids, and we really found this a lot in COVID, because of the way this job shut down and this one didn't shut down. Several of our kids were the breadwinners, and so whenever you would say, why are you working so late? Well, my mom or my dad's job, they furloughed them. They laid them off for 2 weeks. And my job that seemed fairly menial the other day has now become the primary reason. And that's not easy to turn off.
No.
And, and our businesses in town count on great kids that will show up, be on time, do what's asked of them. And you don't want to, be a detriment for that relationship for them. But it also has created, some thought process of, well, maybe we want to look at a different type of a schedule for some of these kids.
Sure. I've heard a lot of schools around the country toying with the idea of a later start time for school, starting at like a 10 a.m. to like a later day start, basically.
Some of those ideas have kicked in. Our instruction office last year, under the direction of Mrs. Cole, I mean, she's done a great job. They put the team together, and the title of what they were looking was a high school redesign, and a lot of those things came up. Some of those are some really big pushes,
Sure.
and we're just maybe not quite ready for some of that now. It would be interesting, your first year in college and you didn't have a morning class,
Right.
ever. It was a shift, and it was a change. Or you tried a night class, and that really might not have been the best thing for you to do, was a night class. So, everything's on the table.
Sure.
And I think our biggest deal is to remember that we're trying to get the kids across the finish line.
That's it.
And again, whatever we've got to do to get them there.
Sure. We're just trying to get kids to walk across the stage at the end of the day. That's the ultimate goal.
Yes.
But also with a little bit of knowledge, going into that.
Well, and we've had a really good relationship with the local business community, Mike Espiritu, Bud Kunkel, the groups that have come in and just said, hey, look, we don't necessarily need you to teach the kids how to do this, and this. But we sure do need the kids to be wanting to be, and that can have some really soft skills. And could we get to them maybe before they graduate, so that we could try to get them to stick around? Because what we found is a lot of them they're going to do that anyway. And it's of no fault of anything. You always have these really high aspirations whenever you're young. Everybody's going to move away, and they're all going to go do these great things. And the plain hard fact of it is that doesn't always happen.
It's true.
So that's another one of our goals, is that we're putting out a product that's going to be good for Roswell.
And I that's another thing that a lot of people have talked about as far as like school is what should be taught in school. Should it be reading, writing, arithmetic like it used to be? Do we really need cursive? And there's a whole argument with that. I feel like a lot of what high school should be focusing on is specific life skills, especially in the junior and senior year of high school. Like, I feel like that I had one semester of economics. I really wished I'd have had a lot more, like I really wished I'd have had just a little more economic knowledge.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because you just brought up something that was, I would bet you, and I don't know because we didn't plan this ahead of time, you probably had a pretty good economics teacher.
He was great,
and that if you go back in your history, the classes that you enjoyed the most might not have been the ones that you would have thought so, but that you had a really good educator / operator in front of you. And you take that back, and that's one of our goals, is to make sure that we've got highly qualified in our rooms, that we have subs. We do. We are no different than any other employer in the nation right now. We have some shortages, but that we try to minimize that as much as possible, and that hopefully we can find it.
Man. Life happens sometimes. It's like case in point. Mike's been out this week because of situations with Kim. I mean, life happens sometimes. You have to have subs, and you guys have a great set of substitute teachers. Actually, one of my close personal friends is a sub, and I know the process that you have to go through to become a sub. It's not easy.
No,
it's definitely there's a lot to it. So it's good to know that you guys are putting top people in position.
Well, and we interviewed we trained a monstrous number. I think it was like 300 and something subs in the last month. It's been incredible. And you say that number, and then you say, but we're still short because of what you just said. Right. Life things do happen, and we always preach. Your family's first, right. And the district will still function. We're still going to run, but our hope is that our teachers feel supported, that they can do things. That if things come up, that they know somebody's got their back. Either that be somebody at the building, that they're going to get a quality person that's going to come in and take care of their kids. Might not teach them the way they I don't expect somebody to walk in and never miss a beat with the lesson that you had planned,
right?
But that they take care of them, that the kids are safe. And that they're, in a good spot, ready whenever that teacher gets back.
Sure. I've said this a number of times, but I see parents, and I understand the need to go to bat for your kids, but I see parents in this almost combative state with their teachers and with their kids' team. And I say team because my kid, again, she's on the spectrum, but she has, with her IEPs and stuff, there's a whole team of people that I sit down and talk to and get updated by. And I trust my daughter's team to the end of the earth. They have done a phenomenal job putting her where she needs to be. And
one that makes me feel good. I don't always hear positive stories, but I do think it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Sure. If you can start with your plan, the school year starts. I was told it would be on this day. It's on this day. Mm-hmm. The things that I have been told have come true. The lunch is going to be at this time. The pickup and drop off works like this. The more things we can stack to show our parents that we've got things together, hopefully some of that goes away. Society right now is pretty mad.
Yeah.
And I mean, you take school out of the equation. I mean, there's, if you're standing in a line anywhere, you're taking your life in your own hands sometimes just because somebody's going to have an issue with what's happening. They're having to wait. It didn't work right. The cash register is broke.
Sure.
They got poor service. And, our hope is that we can be one of the few constants to show that we've got our act together. If we tell you this, it's going to be this, and then we go from there.
I know we've gone wholly off the rails on this conversation, but
no different than with mine.
But this is another thing that I mean, how as a school administrator, how do you deal with living in a time when there's a shooting every other day? I mean, I know there's really no way to answer this question, but we're in an unreal world. It just seems like you guys are handed a daunting task of trying to form a school system around chaos.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yes is the C. 42. 42 is the answer to everything, by the way.
No, I'll write that one down. I don't want to say that it's not any different than when it was years ago, because
Right.
it is. I think you'd be remiss to say that it's not.
Sure.
I do think that the levels have changed a bunch. There has always been things that could cause schools to go off the rails.
Mm-hmm.
The one for us is we feel very confident that we have parent support. So we lock our doors.
Yes.
So our front
That
doors
is key.
our front doors of the building are locked, and they don't all have the little doorbell cameras yet. They're on order.
Sure.
So we rely very heavily on our parents that, yes, I'm sorry you're late. I'm sorry, you didn't get out of work quite the time you thought, and in the doctor's office. And we're going to rely heavily on the doctor's offices of, hey, if they're late, cut them some slack.
Hey, we're back on the air. I just checked. We're technically on the air. We're low level, but we're on the air.
Awesome.
So that's cool. So we're broadcasting.
There you go.
I was just curious, so I thought I'd check.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So, but no, I mean, and we've dealt with that on a years ago with what happened at Barindo. I mean, it's hit close to home, so we know that's a thing that can happen. But I think that you tapped on something that is absolutely key, and I pointed this out shortly after Uvalde. Every school in Roswell, every single school is locked down tight. It's impossible to get into that school without at least checking in with someone.
Right.
And that's key.
So the irony to the Uvalde deal, I mean, and I don't mean that disrespectfully.
Sure.
About it, actually, as it turns out, and it could have even been when it was going on, I was in a meeting with our district supervisor, security liaison person, LJ Harold, and we were having a pretty good argument about should the front doors be locked? Should they not be locked? COVID is over, because unfortunately that was one of the things that was the reason the doors were locked at the front was COVID. And we were getting a little bit of backlash as far as COVID's over, you need to open your buildings up. And we had just made the decision, we're going to lock them. And that news literally starts breaking as we're finishing up that meeting. But again, it's people in our community realizing that we are doing that not to make your day worse.
Right.
and that, there's something happening to your student could make it a whole lot worse.
I'll take a minor inconvenience any day of the week, knowing that my daughter is safe.
Well, that's our plan. And then, too, we've and Mike and I have touched base a little bit about this is, we have some plans in place that we're not really out in the public with, just because we don't want that out in the public.
It doesn't need to be.
Our crew, our teams, our teachers have been put through training. They're going to continue to go through training. We're going to continue to try to adapt and just try to make sure that, we're not somebody that's on the next list. We did have that. And as a principal at Goddard, I got to live 7 years of that because I had those kids for the next 7 years. And the night that we graduated the last group, it was a big deal for me because, we could actually have a fire drill without thinking, okay, what is this fixing to do to somebody? Are they going to have flashbacks? We could, it was just different. And, I did get out there that day to help with the evacuation. And that's something that stuck with me. So
that's awesome. But yeah, I genuinely, I appreciate everything the school board and you as a superintendent are doing to ensure that the most normal school year possible can happen.
Boy, that'd be nice.
The most boring school year ever. That's what we're hoping for.
Amen.
Let's just make it a boring year. We're going a little long. So folks, if parents have any questions,
sure, give us a call.
Want to reach out to you, how do they get a hold of you?
District office, 575-627, and we'll go general switchboard, 2500.
627-2500, and they'll get you to the department that you need to be in.
That's exactly right. And again, we're up and running. We've got lots going on right now. You got lots of trying to figure this out, trying to figure that out. Be patient in the school zones.
Yeah. Please slow down.
Yes, and we've had a couple of.
I'm a delivery driver. I understand you're in a rush. Please slow down.
Well,
okay?
A couple of our lights, and it's I get tickled. If you're from here and you live in a neighborhood, you know where the school zone is, and you know the time of day that kids are out.
Right.
And if the lights are not on, you still know the kids are out. I would hate to have to have somebody try to explain. Well, the lights weren't on.
To my knowledge, there's no lights at Roswell High. But there's still a posted school
There's some posted, yes.
So
posted.
You just know.
Right. Yeah. And the one I'm thinking of, we've got a little bit of an issue with the one out by Barindo Elementary School.
Oh, yeah, because of the Walmart.
And I don't, but it hadn't been functioning. It was on this morning at 5:30. So I'm hoping that maybe they got that one fixed. But just give us a little patience. We've got new people helping with our pickup and our drop off. Like I said, just give it a couple minutes, give it a couple days. It'll all start to work out.
Folks, just remember, if you see a sign, you're going to pay double. Okay?
Oh, buddy. Yes.
So slow down. That's all we're saying.
Yep.
And be aware. All right. Sir, thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely.
We appreciate it. I know it's very valuable. And luckily, half of this interview went out over the airwaves.
I love it. Glad we did it.
And the rest of it will be available on all of our social media moving forward. But thank you so much for your time. We appreciate having you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yes, sir. 6 minutes away from 9 o'clock. Let's get you up to date with that local news. Now